I smelled her before I saw her. A subtle, raw scent that clung to the air like a storm on the edge of breaking. It wasn't perfumed or sweet. It was primal, dark, like wet earth after lightning has struck, like power buried just beneath the surface. I paused mid-step in my garden, my hands still covered in dirt from planting lavender. I turned my head slowly toward the house next door, the one that had been vacant for almost 2 years. The windows were open now. A truck sat in the driveway, the back half unpacked. And then I saw her. She stepped out of the shadows of the porch like something out of a forgotten legend, tall, broad-shouldered, and wrapped in a black coat that fluttered slightly with the breeze. Her hair was dark, short on the sides and wild on top, and a jagged scar cut through her left eyebrow, disappearing into her temple. But it was her eyes that froze me, silver gray, piercing, ancient. The moment her gaze met mine, I forgot how to breathe. She looked at me like she saw through me. And then she looked away, not unkindly, just done. Like she'd spent a lifetime looking, and nothing surprised her anymore. I told myself not to stare. I failed. "Hey," I called out, my voice catching slightly. She turned her head again, slowly, and nodded once. No smile, no greeting, just that. And gods, my knees nearly gave out. Later that night, I told myself I was being dramatic. I told myself she was just a woman, maybe ex-military, or a loner with a tragic past. People like that existed in real life. Not everything had to be part of the stories we grew up with. The ones about alphas with silver eyes and voices that could command wolves to kneel. Still, I barely slept. I kept hearing footsteps next door. Soft, measured, deliberate. I kept feeling watched. Not in a threatening way, but in the way you feel when something ancient passes through the woods and you don't know whether to run or bow. The next morning, I found a crow feather on my porch. It could have been random, but something about the way it was placed dead center on the doormat, perfectly aligned, made my skin prickle. I looked up just in time to see her again. She was jogging this time, in fitted black running gear, her muscles lean and defined, her scar catching the early sun. I swear she looked at me again. Just for a second. Just long enough. I dropped the feather. I didn't know her name.
I didn't even know what she did.
But I knew one thing. She wasn't normal. And I wasn't just curious. I was drawn.
Pulled.
As if something in me, something I didn't even understand, had already recognized her. 2 days passed before she spoke to me. I was struggling with a flat tire in my driveway, cursing under my breath as the wrench slipped for the 3rd time. Suddenly, a hand reached down, pale, veined, strong, and took the wrench from mine. "You're doing it wrong," she said, her voice low and scratchy, like she hadn't used it in years. I froze. Her scent was stronger up close, laced with pine and smoke and something deeper, something that made my omega instincts sit up and tremble. "You know a lot about tires?" I asked, trying to sound casual, like my heart wasn't thundering. She knelt, loosened the bolts like it was nothing. "Enough."
"Thanks," I said.
"I'm Ella."
She paused.
Then stood slowly, wiped her hands on a rag tucked into her waistband. "Francesca." Her name hit me like thunder. I didn't know why, just that it meant something. She started to walk away. "You just moved in?" I blurted. "Yes." She didn't elaborate, but then she stopped.
Turned.
"It's quiet here." "That's kind of the point," I smiled. "I like quiet," she said, then walked inside without another word. That night I dreamed of silver eyes and howling winds, of a crown burning in a fire, of a wolf with a jagged scar staring at the moon like she hated it. I woke up sweating. My chest ached. My scent was thick in the air, restless and searching. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know who she really was. But deep in my bones, I knew this wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning. I tried to ignore it. The way my skin prickled every time she passed. The way the air seemed to shift, denser, heavier, charged, whenever she was near. It wasn't normal. I'd never felt anything like it before. Not even during my first heat, not even during moments of deep intimacy with previous partners. This was different. Ancient. Animal. As if my body recognized something my mind hadn't caught up to yet. I avoided her windows, even though I wanted to look. I turned my head when I heard her front door open, even though I wanted to watch her move. I tried to focus on my routines, work, cleaning, grocery runs, helping the elderly woman 2 houses down with her garden, but no matter what I did, Francesca was there. In my periphery. In my dreams. In the scent that lingered faintly in the wind, earthy and sharp and impossible to forget. On the 5th day, I was baking banana bread when I heard a low, guttural growl. It wasn't close, maybe across the street, maybe near the woods behind the houses, but it was real. Low enough to vibrate in my chest. I froze, my breath catching. I wasn't the only one who heard it. Francesca stepped out of her house barefoot, in a loose black tank top and dark jeans, her shoulders tense, eyes scanning the trees like a soldier assessing a battlefield. She didn't look afraid. She looked alert. And dangerous. I stepped outside slowly, unsure why I felt the need to follow her into the yard. "Did you hear that?" I asked, wrapping my arms around myself. She nodded once. Stray. Stray? Wolf.
Hungry.
Alone. My heart skipped a beat. "There are wolves out here?" Her eyes flicked to me. "Everywhere. You just don't usually notice them." I should have found that creepy. Instead, I felt goosebumps trail down my arms, and not from the cold. "Is it dangerous?" I asked. Francesca tilted her head. "Not to you." Her tone was final. Absolute. As if whatever existed out there wouldn't dare come near me. Not with her nearby. She turned back to the tree line and took a slow breath through her nose. "It's already gone," she murmured. Then she walked away again, disappearing into her house like a shadow folding in on itself. That night, my scent bloomed. I hadn't expected it. Not then, not in October, not with the moon only half full, but it came anyway. Subtle at first, a low hum under my skin, and then all at once, a heat that made my body ache and my breath come faster. I tried to calm myself. Lit candles. Took a cold shower. Wore loose clothes. But nothing helped. I was restless. Agitated. Needy. And it was her scent I kept craving, not the synthetic suppressants I kept in my drawer. I opened my window to let in air. Instead, I caught her scent, and it was like gasoline on fire. I fell back onto my bed, flushed and panting, clutching at the sheets like they could ground me. The next morning, I didn't even recognize myself in the mirror. My cheeks were flushed, my pupils dilated, my whole body humming like a live wire. I considered calling in sick, but staying home would mean staying near her. And I wasn't sure I could take that. So I left early, went to a cafe downtown to clear my head. I sat there, sipping bitter coffee and chewing on my lip when a man I didn't know sat at the table across from me. He was young, handsome, with pale hair and golden eyes that didn't blink nearly enough. "Ella," he said, and I froze. "You're hard to find. Do I know you?" I asked, confused and immediately on edge. "Not yet," he said, his smile too sharp. "But I know your neighbor." My blood ran cold. "Francesca? Is that what she's calling herself now?" he said, almost amused. "Interesting." I stood up, heart racing. "I don't know what you want, but she's not who you think she is." "You don't know her," I snapped, even though I barely did either. But I felt something, and that was enough. His smile widened. "Oh, I know exactly who she is. And so do a lot of others. It won't be long before they come looking. And when they do, well, you should choose which side of history you want to be on." I left.
Fast.
Practically ran all the way back to my car. I didn't go home immediately. I drove around for hours, heart pounding, stomach in knots. Who was that man? What did he mean? What the hell was going on? I wanted to pretend it was all a misunderstanding, that I was overreacting, letting my instincts spin stories again. But when I finally returned to my neighborhood, I found Francesca standing in front of my house, waiting, like she knew. I got out of the car slowly. She said nothing at first, just looked at me with those impossible eyes. You saw him, she said, and it wasn't a question. I nodded. Who was he? Her jaw tightened. Her posture changed just a little, but enough to make her look like someone else. Someone powerful. Someone terrifying. Trouble, she said. Then she turned and walked away. But this time she didn't go home. She walked into the woods and didn't look back. She didn't come back that night or the next morning. Her house remained dark, windows shut tight, not a single sound beyond the occasional creak of wood shifting in the cold. I told myself she was fine, that she was used to disappearing, used to silence, but my chest ached with every passing hour. I felt restless, like something inside me was pacing. My scent was still thick, unstable, even though the worst of my heat had passed. I tried everything to distract myself. Cleaned the kitchen twice. Reorganized my books. Took 3 showers. Nothing helped. My thoughts kept circling back to her. The way she'd looked at me before walking into the woods. The way her voice had changed. Her entire energy, just for that split second, had shifted from mysterious loner to something commanding, regal, utterly lethal. That word again. Alpha.
I wasn't supposed to think about things like that.
The old stories were just that, stories. Fantasies told to children about lost bloodlines and mythical leaders. No one had seen a true alpha in decades. And yet, when she looked at me, when she spoke to me in that tone, my body had responded before my brain could even react. My knees had weakened. My breath had caught. My instincts had submitted. Without thinking, I grabbed my coat and headed toward the woods. The same direction she had vanished 2 nights ago. I didn't expect to find her. I just needed to do something.
Move. Breathe.
Feel like I wasn't unraveling. The forest was quiet, dense with mist and the sharp scent of pine. Every crackle of leaves underfoot made me flinch, but I didn't stop. I followed something invisible. A pull. Deeper into the trees, past the worn path and into territory I had never dared explore. That's when I saw it. A clearing, bathed in silver moonlight despite the overcast sky. And in the middle of it, her. Francesca stood barefoot on the mossy ground, her tank top clinging to her, black leggings soaked through the knees. Her eyes were closed. Her hands were clenched at her sides. Her breath came hard and fast. She looked like she was fighting something.
Pain.
Instinct.
Her past.
I should have left. Turned back. Given her the privacy she clearly wanted. But I couldn't. Something in me rooted me there, unable to look away. She shuddered violently, dropping to her knees. A sound escaped her lips, low, broken, almost a growl. Her shoulders rippled beneath her skin, and I realized, with a jolt of terror and awe, that her bones were shifting. She wasn't just kneeling. She was changing. Her spine arched unnaturally. Her fingers dug into the dirt. The scent in the air grew thick and wild, tinged with dominance and fury. Then suddenly she stopped.
Gasping.
Trembling. Her transformation unfinished. Her body rigid. And then she turned, eyes open, catching me where I stood, half hidden by the trees. For a long, terrible second, neither of us moved. Then she exhaled, slowly, as if releasing a breath she'd held for years. You shouldn't be here, she said, voice raw and strained. I didn't mean to, I was worried. My words stumbled over themselves. I stepped closer without realizing it. Francesca, what's happening to you? She stood, slowly, deliberately. Her body still shimmered with remnants of something ancient just beneath the surface. You need to forget what you saw. I can't, I whispered. I don't want to. Her expression darkened. You don't know what I've done. What I am. Then tell me, I said, breathless. Please. I'm not afraid of you. She took a step forward. The scent of her power enveloped me, not aggressive, but overwhelming in its weight. Love what you've seen so far and want to help me keep creating these awesome stories on this channel? Then subscribe and hit the bell. Your subscription supports the channel and makes sure you get more exciting stories. You should be, she murmured. My heart thundered. My instincts screamed to kneel, to submit, but I held my ground. Why? I asked, voice shaking. Because you're an alpha? Her eyes flickered, something sparking behind them. Not surprise. Not denial. Just a quiet, exhausted acceptance. Not just an alpha, she said.
The alpha. Or,
I was. Francesca Silvercrest, I whispered, the name falling from my lips like a prophecy. Her jaw clenched. They told us you were dead. I was supposed to be. The words hung between us. Sharp, heavy, final. Why? I asked, stepping closer, my pulse pounding in my ears. Why fake your death? Why come here? She looked at me then, not just looked, but saw me. Her gaze was raw, unguarded, because I was tired of being a weapon, of being a symbol, of watching everyone I cared about be used against me. I wanted peace, silence, anonymity. I didn't know what to say, so I asked the only question I could. And what now? Francesca stared at me for a long moment. Now, she said softly, I've let someone see me again, and that means I'm not safe anymore. Me? I asked, my voice barely audible. You think I'll hurt you? No, she said. But others might use you to hurt me. Then, as if the weight of those words broke something in her, she reached out, slow, hesitant, and brushed a single knuckle against my jaw. The touch was featherlight, but it seared through me. You smell like danger, she whispered. Like temptation. You smell like home. I replied before I could stop myself. Her eyes darkened. Her fingers trailed down my neck, stopping just above my collarbone. I swayed forward without thinking, drunk on her on this. But before our lips could touch, she pulled back, sharp, sudden. Go home, Ella. Francesca, please. Her voice cracked. That single word held so much pain, so much longing, that I turned and walked away. Not because I wanted to,
but because she needed me to.
That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed replaying every second of what I'd seen. The shifting, the pain, the vulnerability in her eyes, and the fire in mine. I didn't know what this meant yet. I didn't know what would come next. But I knew one thing with bone-deep certainty. I wasn't going to run from her.
Not now.
Not ever. I didn't see her for 3 days. Her house was quiet again, blinds closed, lights off. It felt like the universe was punishing me, giving me a taste of something wild and breathtaking only to rip it away before I could understand what it meant. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating properly either. Every part of me felt like it had been tuned to a different frequency, one I didn't recognize but couldn't escape. And all it did was scream her name. Francesca. My body still reacted to her presence, even in absence. It was in the air, in the dirt, in the trees. The forest whispered about her. My skin remembered the brush of her knuckle against my jaw like it had been branded there. And worse, my scent hadn't fully settled. Something inside me still waited for her, pulled toward her like I had been marked. I didn't know if she could feel it too. I didn't even know if she was still here. But on the 4th night, something changed. I had just stepped out onto my porch, drawn by that same restless energy that had haunted me since the forest, when I smelled it. Not her scent. Something else. Something wrong. Acrid. Bitter.
Male.
I froze, my hand still on the doorknob, and turned slowly toward the shadows near the end of the street. He stood there. The man from the cafe. His pale hair caught the moonlight like frost, and this time he wasn't smiling. Ella, he said calmly, too calmly. I warned you. My breath caught. Get away from my house. It's not your house I'm interested in, he replied. She's still here, isn't she? The queen who ran away from her crown. Tell me, how does she taste? The growl came from behind me.
Deep. Low.
Lethal. Francesca. She stepped onto the porch like the shadow of death, barefoot, eyes glowing with silver fire, teeth just beginning to sharpen. The man tensed, but didn't flinch. So, he said slowly, you're done hiding. If you lay one finger on her, Francesca growled, I will end you where you stand. I couldn't move, could barely breathe. Her power filled the air like thunderclouds, like a scream waiting to erupt. He smiled again, but this time it was thin, strained. You know they're coming for you, he said. All of them. The high circle, the old packs. You made your choice when you ran. You don't get to disappear and expect no consequences. Francesca stepped forward, off the porch, and the ground beneath her seemed to shudder. I didn't disappear, she said. I walked away. There's a difference. And yet here you are, he said, voice sharp now, sniffing around some little omega like you haven't already broken enough. I expected her to attack. I saw it in the twitch of her jaw, the flare of her nostrils. But instead, she said nothing, just turned to me and whispered, Go inside. No, I said, trembling. I'm not leaving you. Ella, she said, voice tight, controlled.
Please.
And it was the please that did it. I stepped back inside, heart hammering, barely closing the door before I heard the fight. It wasn't loud, no dramatic crashes or screaming, but it was brutal.
Fast.
Efficient. A thud. A crack. Silence. And then, slowly, the door creaked open again. Francesca stood there, breathing hard, her knuckles bloodied. Her shirt was torn at the shoulder, revealing more scars than I'd ever seen on one body. Some thin and pale, others deep and still red.
She didn't speak.
She didn't need to. I reached for her instinctively. You're hurt. It's not mine, she said. Her voice was low, shaken. But others are coming. He was just a scout. What do we do? I whispered. Francesca looked at me, something ancient and anguished in her eyes. We run. I shook my head.
No.
Not again. You've been running your whole life. Her jaw clenched. And you think we can fight them? That I can fight them and protect you at the same time? You don't have to protect me, I said, stepping closer. You just have to trust me. Francesca stared at me like I was speaking another language. No one ever asks me to trust them. They ask me to lead.
To kill.
To command. I'm not asking you to be a queen, I whispered. I'm asking you to be you, whoever that is now. Silence stretched between us. Tense. Vibrating. She stepped forward until our bodies almost touched. The heat between us was unbearable. Her scent flooded the space like wildfire, igniting every nerve in my body. You're not afraid of me, she said softly. Even now. Even after everything.
No, I said.
Because I think you've been afraid enough for both of us. She let out a breath, shaky and harsh, and then her hands were on me, gripping my hips, pulling me close. Her forehead pressed to mine. Not a kiss. Not yet. Just contact.
Raw. Real.
If I let them find me, she murmured, they'll try to tear me apart. They'll use you to do it. Then don't let them find you alone, I said. Let me stand with you. Her lips brushed against mine. Not quite a kiss, but enough to steal my breath. You're going to break my heart, she whispered. I can feel it. Maybe, I said. But I'll never leave you wondering if I cared. And finally, she kissed me. It wasn't soft. It wasn't sweet. It was desperate.
Starved.
Like she'd spent 3 years buried under stone, and I was the first breath of air she'd tasted since. Her mouth moved over mine with purpose, hands fisting in my shirt, pulling me so close I felt every inch of her body against mine. I moaned into her, helpless. She pulled back too soon, eyes burning. We don't have much time, she said. They'll send more. Stronger. Then we prepare, I said, breathless. We don't run. Not yet. Francesca stared at me like I was the moon itself. I swore I'd never fight again, she said. But for you, she didn't finish.
She didn't have to.
In that moment, I knew. She was done hiding. And I was done pretending I wasn't already hers. The next morning, the world didn't feel the same. The trees looked sharper. The air heavier. The silence between houses deeper than it should have been. I moved like someone waking up inside a dream that had shifted its rules. My lips still tingled from her kiss. My body still buzzed from the way she had held me like I was the only anchor she had left in a storm she never asked for. Francesca hadn't said much after. She had walked me back inside my house with a kind of stillness that screamed of decisions forming behind her eyes. She hadn't stayed, but her scent lingered, on my clothes, on my skin, in the hallway where we'd stopped just to look at each other in silence, like neither of us had ever been looked at before. When I opened the door that morning, she was already there,
sitting on my porch steps.
Dressed in dark tactical clothes that didn't belong in any civilian closet, her hair tied back, her knuckles freshly bandaged. "Morning," she said, like we were normal. Like she hadn't almost killed a man for me last night. Like we hadn't kissed, like we were starving. "You're early," I said, heart skipping at the sound of her voice. "I didn't sleep." "Me neither." She stood slowly, eyes raking over me. "We don't have much time. If you're serious about staying, about helping, you need to be ready." "Ready for what?" "For war." She said it without blinking. No drama. No metaphor. Just the truth. Cold and final. "They'll come in packs. With teeth and fire and politics dressed as honor. They'll want blood. Mine. Yours. Anyone who touches me." I swallowed hard. "Then we fight back." Something flickered in her eyes.
Pain. Surprise. Pride.
She led me to her house. I'd never been inside before. I thought I knew what to expect. I didn't. The inside was sparse.
Clean.
Too clean. Bare walls. No pictures. No memories. Just weapons.
Books.
Maps. The only sign of humanity was a single plant on the windowsill, wilting but still alive. Like her. "We train here," she said. "And in the woods. But if anything feels wrong, if you feel overwhelmed, you tell me. Immediately." I nodded. "You're not scaring me." "I should be," she muttered, pulling 2 wooden staffs from the corner. "Catch." I barely had time to react before one was flying toward me. I caught it, barely, hands trembling. "We start with balance," she said. "Then defense. You won't overpower anyone. You'll survive them." She moved with the grace of a predator, circling, striking, correcting me with a flick of her fingers or a muttered curse under her breath. I was clumsy at first, frustrated, but something about her focus, about the way she watched me like I was already worth protecting, made me try harder. And harder still. By the time we stopped, my arms ached, and sweat clung to my skin. I sat down hard on the wooden floor, gasping. She crouched in front of me, her fingers tilting my chin up. "You did good," she said. "You're lying," I groaned. "Maybe. But I admire the fight in you." "Do you admire it?" I murmured. "Or does it scare you a little?" She stared at me, breath catching, and for a moment, I saw it again, that flicker of something raw in her.
Need.
Longing. Regret. "You keep saying you're not afraid of me," she said softly. "But I'm terrified of you." "Why?" "Because I haven't felt anything for anyone in years. And now you're here, looking at me like I'm not broken."
"Because you're not," I said.
"You're just hiding the pieces." Her hands tightened on her knees. "If I let myself want you, if I let myself have you, they'll take you from me." "Then don't let them," I whispered. "Fight for me." She kissed me again. Slower this time. More controlled. But just as intense. Her lips moved like they knew exactly where I needed to be touched. Her hands didn't stray, just held my face like it was something sacred. When we pulled apart, she rested her forehead against mine. "Someone's coming," she said suddenly. Her whole body went still. "How do you?" "I can feel it." She moved quickly, pulling me behind her just as a knock came at the door. Not loud. Not threatening. 3 sharp raps. Francesca opened it without a word. The woman on the other side was tall, lean, dressed in a long coat the color of blood. Her hair was snow-white, tied back in a braid. Her eyes, green, sharp, locked onto Francesca's. "Still alive," the woman said. "Barely." "You always were dramatic," the stranger said, stepping inside like she owned the place. I stood frozen. The energy in the room shifted, crackling. This woman wasn't just anyone. Francesca didn't draw a weapon. That meant something. "Ella," Francesca said, This is Lyra, my former second-in-command. You forgot, favorite, Lyra said with a smirk, turning toward me. And you must be the little flame who's got our queen all tangled up. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. My scent was all over Francesca. Lyra's smirk widened. She's in deep, then. Why are you here? Francesca asked, jaw tight. To warn you. The circle knows you're alive. They're gathering. 2 days, maybe 3, and they'll be at your door. Let them come, Francesca said. I'm not running. Good, Lyra said. Because this time, I'm staying. Francesca blinked. You what? You think I served you all those years just to let them tear you down now? Lyra stepped forward. I made my choice. I chose you, and if that means dying beside you, so be it. Francesca stared at her, stunned. I looked between them, jealousy flaring before I could control it. But Lyra caught the glance. Don't worry, little flame, she said, voice like velvet. She's yours now. I've always known her heart belonged to someone she hadn't met yet. Francesca looked at me, really looked, and for the first time, I saw her as more than a ghost. I saw her as someone who was finally ready to live. We train tomorrow, she said. All of us. Together. And I knew then, we weren't waiting for the storm anymore. We were becoming it. I woke up with my back aching and the scent of pine and sweat still clinging to my skin. My palms were raw from training, my muscles sore in places I didn't even know could hurt, but all I could think about was her, Francesca, her voice low and rough as she barked commands, the way her eyes darkened every time I pushed past a limit she didn't expect me to reach. The days were starting to blend together now, a blur of training and whispered strategy, of shared glances and stolen touches. She hadn't kissed me again since that night, but I felt it in the way she looked at me when she thought I wasn't watching, in the way her hand lingered a second longer every time she helped me up off the ground. And then there was Lyra, sharp-tongued and graceful, who moved like she could kill with a single thought and probably had. She trained with me too, but unlike Francesca, Lyra didn't hold back, not physically, not emotionally. She called me Little Flame, but there was nothing condescending about it. She pushed me harder than Francesca ever dared to, made me spar until I couldn't breathe, then helped me up with a smirk and a nod of approval. You've got fire, she said after knocking the staff from my hands for the 3rd time that morning. You just don't know how to wield it yet. I'm trying, I muttered, wiping blood from my lip. Try harder, she replied. Because when they come for her, they won't go through her first. They'll go through you. That truth hit me like a punch to the gut. And she was right. My connection to Francesca wasn't a secret anymore. My scent was already bound up in hers, my presence beside her a visible target. If they wanted to break the Alpha Queen, they'd come for her weakness. They'd come for me, and I wasn't going to let that happen. That night, as the 3 of us sat around the table covered in maps and old documents, Francesca looked more tense than I'd ever seen her. She wasn't the quiet storm I'd grown used to. She was restless, her eyes darting toward the windows every few seconds, like she could feel something circling just beyond the trees. What is it? I asked quietly. Something's wrong, she said. Too quiet. No scouts. No signs. Nothing. Maybe they changed tactics, Lyra said. Maybe they already slipped past the wards. My chest tightened. You think they're here? Francesca didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached across the table and took my hand, her grip firm but trembling ever so slightly. We train harder tomorrow, she said. At dawn. And Ella, if anything happens if I'm not with you, no. I cut her off. Don't do that. Don't talk like you're already gone. I have to, she said, voice cracking. You have to be ready. Then stay, I whispered. Stay tonight. With me. For a long moment, she didn't respond. Then she stood, nodded once to Lyra, and followed me across the yard in silence. Once inside my house, it was like something shifted between us. Not tension, not fear, but acceptance. There were no more walls left to protect us from what we both knew was coming. I led her to my room. She didn't hesitate. She sat on the edge of the bed while I changed out of my training clothes, her eyes following every movement, sharp and reverent like she was memorizing me. When I finally stood in front of her, wearing nothing but a long shirt that barely brushed my thighs, she reached out slowly and brushed her fingers down my arm. "You smell like fire and moonlight," she murmured. "Like something I want to bury myself in and never surface again." I climbed into her lap, straddling her, feeling the hard line of her control tremble under my touch. Then stop resisting. The kiss we shared wasn't gentle. It was years of buried need, of loneliness colliding with purpose. Her hands gripped my hips like she didn't know how to let go, like if she did, the world would end. I kissed her jaw, her throat, the edge of the scar that ran across her shoulder, and felt her tremble beneath me. "I'm yours," I whispered against her skin. "I always was." "Ella," she breathed, like my name was both salvation and ruin. We didn't make love that night, but the intimacy between us was so raw it left me breathless. We lay together in the dark, tangled under the covers, her heartbeat steady beneath my ear. I traced the lines of her scars in silence, and she let me. "What was it like?" I asked softly. "Being queen?"
"Lonely," she said.
"Even when I was surrounded, especially then." "And now?" I asked. "Now," she murmured, "I'm terrified, because for the first time, I want to live." I kissed her chest, right over her heart, and she held me tighter. The next morning came too fast. Francesca was already up when I opened my eyes, standing at the window in a pair of loose black pants and a tank top, her hair pulled back, a blade strapped to her back. "We don't have much time," she said. "I can feel them getting closer." Lyra joined us minutes later. Her face was grim. 2 scouts were spotted near the southern ridge. "They weren't subtle. They want us to know they're coming." "Then let them," Francesca said. "We hold the line here." But even as she said it, her eyes flicked to me and I saw it. The fear, the calculation, the silent debate she was having with herself. Can I protect her if everything falls apart? The answer didn't matter, because I wasn't leaving her. Ever. We trained harder that day than any other. Lyra pushed me past every physical threshold I thought I had. Francesca made me shift my stance, my breathing, my thinking. And beneath it all, the bond between the 3 of us strengthened, not just as warriors, but as a pack. That night, as the wind picked up and the scent of ash drifted in from the east, Francesca called me aside. Her voice was low. "Urgent. There's something you need to know." "What is it?"
"There's a mark on you," she said.
"Not physical. Scent-based. They know you're mine. It's why they'll come for you first." "Let them," I said, stepping closer. "Let them try." Francesca shook her head, a bitter smile on her lips. "Gods, you really are dangerous." "Only when someone threatens what's mine," I replied. She cupped my face, and I saw it in her eyes again, that terrifying, beautiful vulnerability. "Promise me you won't be reckless. Promise me you won't push me away," I whispered back. She didn't answer. She just kissed me like it was the last time. I didn't let her pull away for a long, long time. But as I held her close that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was already inside the gates. Watching. Waiting. The hunt had already begun. And we were the prey pretending to be predators. The fog came down faster than expected, thick and unnatural, like it had been summoned. One moment, the forest was clear and still, the air cold but bearable. The next, everything was swallowed in dense gray silence. Lyra stood just a few paces ahead of me, her eyes sharp, her stance alert. "This isn't natural," she muttered. "Stay close." "I'm trying," I said, heart pounding. The mist clung to my skin like breath, damp and cold, and I kept reaching for Francesca's scent in the air, but it was gone. Like the fog had drowned everything. We were supposed to be out here just for a short perimeter check. A routine patrol. Francesca had insisted we move in pairs now, never alone. She'd gone with 2 of the others, Lyra, and I took the southern line. But even as we started moving, I felt it. The wrongness. The chill that had nothing to do with the weather. Lyra tensed beside me. They're here. I didn't ask how she knew. I felt it too. A shift in the air. The absence of birdsong. The quiet before something breaks. Back to the ridge, she said, grabbing my wrist. We don't run, I snapped. Not when we're this close. This isn't running. This is surviving. Francesca's orders. Her voice was sharp, but there was something else under it. Urgency. Fear. We didn't get far. The first shadow moved too fast to see. A blur in the fog. Lyra shoved me hard, sending me tumbling behind a tree as something dark and massive collided with her. I heard the snarl, the clash of claws, the scream that was more rage than pain. I tried to get up, but something else moved behind me, a new shape, leaner, quieter. I turned just in time to see a man with golden eyes and a wicked smile step through the mist. Hello, little Omega, he said almost sweetly. We've been looking for you. I lunged, staff raised, but he was faster. He caught my arm mid-swing and twisted, hard. Pain exploded through my shoulder, and I hit the ground, gasping. Feisty, he said, crouching. I can see why she likes you. Touch me again, I snarled, and you lose the hand. He laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, I like you. But before he could reach again, I screamed, not words, not even a name, just raw instinct. A cry pulled from my chest with everything I had left. And somehow, it reached her. I didn't hear her footsteps. I didn't smell her coming. But suddenly, the man above me went flying, slammed into a tree so hard the bark cracked. Francesca stood over me, barefooted, her body trembling, eyes silver and glowing like fire behind ice. Her voice was a snarl when she spoke. You don't touch what's mine. I'd never seen her like this. She wasn't just furious. She was shifted. Not fully. Her body was still mostly human, but her nails were claws, her canines elongated, her energy vast and terrible. She didn't hesitate. She launched at him, and the forest exploded into violence. Growls. Cracks. Blood. I couldn't follow the fight. It was too fast, too brutal, but I saw flashes, her dragging him through the mud by the throat, him slashing at her with a silver blade, her wrenching it from his hand and stabbing it into his thigh without blinking. The others came seconds later. Lyra, limping but alive, followed by 2 more allies from our side. By the time they reached us, Francesca was crouched over the man's broken body, her hand clenched around his throat, eyes still glowing. He's done, Lyra said quietly. Let him go. Francesca didn't move. I stood up, pain shooting through my shoulder, and walked toward her slowly. Francesca, I whispered. It's me. Her ears twitched. Her body shifted. Slowly, those wild silver eyes turned to me. And in them, I saw everything. The fury, the pain, the fear, and the love. I'm okay, I said. You came in time. I'm okay. She let go. The man fell unconscious into the dirt, barely breathing. Francesca stood, staggering slightly, blood staining her arms. She didn't look at anyone else. Just me. I couldn't feel your scent, she whispered, broken. I couldn't feel you. The fog, Lyra said. They masked the territory. Old tricks. Francesca didn't acknowledge her. She reached out with shaking hands, brushing hair from my face, her voice still raw. If I'd lost you, you didn't. But I almost did. The others gave us space, stepping back as Francesca pulled me into her arms, holding me like she'd been holding her breath for days. I didn't care that my shoulder screamed in pain. I didn't care about the blood. I melted into her touch, into the warmth and power of her body against mine. You didn't, I repeated, softer this time. I'm right here. That night, back in the safety of the house, the silence was louder than ever. The others were tending to wounds, repairing weapons, reinforcing our defenses. But in my room, with Francesca watching me from the doorway like she couldn't decide whether to fall apart or fall to her knees, the only thing that mattered was us. I almost lost myself in that forest, she said. When I couldn't smell you, I shifted without thinking. I would have killed them all. I wanted to. Why didn't you? Because you called me back, she whispered. With your voice. Like it pulled me out of something dark. I stood slowly, stepped closer, reached for her hand. Then don't go back into it. I might not have a choice. When the others come, I may not be able to control the shift. And once that happens, once they see what I really am, there's no hiding left. Then let them see, I said. Let them remember who they tried to kill, who you still are. And if they kill me for it, I leaned in, resting my forehead against hers. Then they'll have to go through me first. Her breath hitched. She kissed me then, without hesitation, without control, just hunger and emotion and need, like she was trying to memorize me with her mouth. And I kissed her back, fiercely, my hands gripping her shoulders, holding her here, now, where nothing else could touch us. Not the war.
Not the past.
Not the future. Just us. For tonight.
For now.
She said my name in her sleep.
Low.
Breathless. Like a prayer. Like it hurt. I woke to the sound of it, my body instantly alert, heart pounding. The room was dark except for the thin line of moonlight cutting across the bed, illuminating the shape of her. Francesca curled into herself, one hand gripping the sheets, her jaw clenched tight. Ella, she whispered again, this time with a tremor that made my chest ache. I reached out instinctively, fingers brushing her shoulder. Her skin burned with heat. Francesca, I whispered.
Hey.
I'm here. Her eyes snapped open, silver and wild. No pupils, no focus. Just raw instinct. For a second, I wasn't sure she recognized me. Her breath came in fast, uneven bursts, and I could feel the shift trembling beneath her skin. Bones flexing. Claws just under the surface. It's me, I said again, softer now, calming. You're safe. She blinked rapidly, her breath catching, and then, finally, her eyes began to clear. The silver bled away slowly, leaving her human again. I almost shifted, she murmured, in my sleep. You were dreaming. No, she said, sitting up. I was remembering. She didn't say more, but I could see it. Whatever memory had clawed its way back into her mind had shaken her. And worse, she'd lost control. Not in battle, not in rage, just lying beside me, vulnerable. That terrified her more than any enemy. She stood quickly, pacing the room, rubbing a hand over her face. I can't do this, she muttered. If I shift like that during a fight, or worse, near you, I could hurt someone. I could hurt you. Francesca, I said, following her. You didn't hurt me. You stopped. You came back. That means something. She turned to face me, and gods, the look in her eyes nearly broke me. I felt you beside me, even in the dream. That's what pulled me out. Your scent, your voice, you. Then let that be your anchor, I said. Use it. That's not how it works, she snapped. When an alpha bonds with an omega this deeply, it opens everything. Instinct,
Pain. History.
power. It's not safe. But it's real, I said. And I'm not going anywhere. For a moment, the only sound between us was the wind rattling the window pane. Then she stepped closer, slowly, like approaching something sacred. Her fingers brushed mine, hesitant. You don't understand what you've done to me, she whispered. You've made me want again. I didn't speak. I just leaned forward and kissed her. Soft and slow, a promise instead of a demand. Her hands trembled as they cupped my face, and when she kissed me back, it felt like the beginning of something unstoppable.
We barely separated that day.
The others noticed. Lyra said nothing, but her glances held a mixture of amusement and warning. The bond between Francesca and I was intensifying, and everyone could feel it. Especially me. Her presence was like gravity now. When she entered a room, my body responded, my scent thickened, my chest ached, my instincts bloomed. I could sense her even when she wasn't touching me. And when she was touching me, when her fingers grazed my lower back during training, or when her lips brushed my temple in passing, I felt like I might dissolve. That night, Lyra returned from a scouting mission with news. Her jaw was tight, her voice low. They're camped 2 ridges east. Less than a day's march now. Francesca nodded grimly. How many? 3 dozen at least. Alphas.
Trained.
They brought chains. My stomach turned. I didn't need to ask what the chains were for. There's more, Lyra added. Their leader, she wasn't with them when they arrived. But she showed up 2 hours ago. Who? Francesca asked. Lyra hesitated. Vera. I didn't recognize the name. But Francesca did. She froze completely. Her face drained of color. Her mouth parted slightly, just enough for me to see the fear ripple through her. No, she whispered. That's not possible. Vera's dead. Apparently not, Lyra said. She's the one organizing the hunt. And she asked for you by name. Who is she? I asked, stepping forward. Francesca didn't answer right away. Her hands clenched into fists. Her shoulders rose with slow, uneven breaths. She was my mate. The words fell like thunder. I couldn't breathe. Mate. Francesca turned to me, and in her eyes I saw only regret. It was political. Arranged. I didn't choose her. I endured her. What happened? She betrayed me, she said. Helped orchestrate the assassination attempt that nearly killed me. I thought I ended her. I was wrong. My skin crawled. She's coming for you. She's coming for us, Francesca corrected. Because she'll know what you are to me the moment she smells you. And she won't stop until she destroys everything I've rebuilt. Then we destroy her first. Francesca looked at me like she didn't know whether to kiss me or lock me away. You have no idea how dangerous she is. No, I said, stepping closer, but I know how strong you are. And you're not alone this time. The room pulsed with tension. Francesca's eyes drifted to my mouth. I saw her fighting the need, the instinct, the bond. If she touches you, she said, voice hoarse, I'll lose control. I won't be able to stop. Then don't stop. My voice was shaking, but not from fear. Let her see what happens when she threatens what belongs to you. Francesca kissed me then, hard and fast and rough, like she couldn't wait another second. Her hands gripped my waist, my thighs, my back, pulling me flush against her body. I gasped into her mouth, my entire being igniting under her touch. Mine, she whispered against my lips. You're mine. Yours, I breathed back. Always. That night, we didn't sleep. Our bodies moved together like we were made for each other, like every scar and secret had led us to this moment. It wasn't just desire. It was a claiming, a bond sealed in skin and sweat and breathless moans. By the time dawn crept through the windows, we were tangled and quiet, our heartbeats slowly sinking. You're stronger than you think, Francesca said softly. So are you, I whispered. But if Vera tries to take you from me, her eyes burned silver again. She won't survive it. And I believed her, because I could feel it now. Our bond like a thread of fire running through my blood, ancient and unstoppable. We weren't just 2 women anymore. We were something bigger, something sacred, something that no enemy could break. I smelled her before I saw her. And the worst part was she smelled like me. I was in the main hall, helping Lyra reinforce the southern windows with silver-threaded wire when the scent hit me. Familiar and wrong. My own scent, twisted and altered, mixed with something old. Sharp. Alpha. Corrupt. I froze. Lyra noticed it too. Her eyes narrowed, one hand moving instinctively toward the blade at her hip. They're not just playing with fire, she murmured. They're wearing it. What does that mean? I asked, heart beginning to race. It means she is something that belongs to you, Lyra replied. Something she's using to mimic your scent. Why would she? To unbalance Francesca. And gods, it worked. Because moments later, Francesca burst through the door, shoulders tense, her breath shallow, eyes flickering to silver as soon as the scent reached her. She didn't say anything, just stood there, frozen in the doorway, like the ground beneath her had turned to ash. I moved to her, reaching for her arm.
Hey.
Look at me. I'm right here. She blinked rapidly. Her gaze focused on me, then drifted back to the open window. It's you, but not, she murmured. She's mocking our bond. Let her try, I said. She'll never be me. Francesca didn't answer. Her hands were shaking. Her scent had gone sharp and agitated, filled with something primal. I thought she was dead, she whispered. I thought I was free. You are free, I said, gripping her hand. She doesn't control you anymore. But I could feel the war inside her. The past and the present grinding against each other. That night, the messenger came. He wasn't what I expected. Not a soldier. Not a scout. A child. Barely 13. Terrified. Shaking as he handed Lyra a sealed letter. Francesca snatched it from her hands before Lyra could read it. She opened it in silence. Her eyes scanned the paper once, twice. Her jaw clenched. She wants to meet, Francesca said. Tomorrow. At the ravine. Alone. No, I said instantly. Absolutely not. If I don't go, she'll come here. With everyone. Then let her. I snapped. We're ready. No, we're not, Francesca said. You saw what she's capable of. She's not coming to fight. She's coming to twist. Then I'm going with you. Francesca looked at me, and I knew before she spoke that she was going to say no. It's too dangerous. I am dangerous, I shot back. Or have you forgotten? Lyra stepped between us. If you go alone, she'll use your emotions against you. She already is. But if Ella goes, she'll see it as a declaration of war, Francesca interrupted. She already declared war, I said. The second she wore my scent. Francesca said nothing. Just folded the letter and left the room, her silence louder than any argument. That night, she didn't sleep beside me. I waited. For hours. Listening to every creak in the house, every breath of wind. But she never came. I found her at dawn, sitting in the empty field behind the house. She was barefoot, her coat wrapped tightly around her, hair undone, shoulders slumped like the weight of the world had finally become too much. You don't trust yourself around her, I said softly. That's what this is about, isn't it? She marked me, Francesca whispered. Years ago. During a heat I didn't consent to. It wasn't love. It was possession. And I let the world think it was a mating bond because it made the politics easier. My throat closed. I sat beside her, my body aching to hold her, to protect her from the memory. You were surviving, I said. That doesn't make you weak. That makes you stronger than anyone I've ever known. She turned to me then, eyes full of something shattered. But what if part of her still has me? What if she can pull that part to the surface? I didn't speak. I leaned forward, kissed her gently. Then harder. Her body responded instantly, melting into mine, her hands desperate and shaking. When we pulled apart, I looked straight into her soul. You don't belong to her anymore. You never really did. But you belong to me now. Her eyes flooded with emotion. She pressed her forehead to mine. Then come with me, she whispered. To the ravine. I nodded once. Always. We didn't tell Lyra. We left before first light, slipping into the trees like ghosts, our scents masked with crushed herbs and damp earth. The ravine was a dead place.
Cold. Silent.
The kind of place where things came to end. Francesca walked ahead of me, tense but tall, her coat billowing like a cloak of shadows. I followed, matching her pace, feeling every heartbeat in my body like a drum of warning. And then we saw her, Vera, leaning against a black stone, arms crossed, her white blonde hair catching the weak sun. She looked like a goddess fallen from grace, beautiful in the way wolves are beautiful before they strike. Her eyes, golden and cruel, landed on me first, then on Francesca. And she smiled.
There you are, she said.
Still alive.
And still mine.
Francesca didn't flinch. Not for a long time. But you came, Vera said, stepping forward. Which means part of you still remembers what we were. What we were was a lie, Francesca spat. You forced it. I gave you strength, Vera said, circling her. You were nothing before me. I was already queen, Francesca growled. You were a mistake. Vera's smile slipped. She turned to me, eyes narrowing. And this is the thing that's replaced me. I didn't let myself cower. I stepped forward.
No.
I didn't replace you. I erased you. Vera moved fast, too fast, and suddenly she was inches from me, her scent flooding the space. Francesca growled, lunging forward, but I raised a hand. Don't, I whispered.
She wants that.
She wants you to lose control. Vera's smile returned. Smart little Omega.
Brave. But you reek of her now.
It's disgusting. You want to talk about disgusting? I said. Let's talk about forcing a bond. About taking someone's body and calling it politics. Her hand twitched. A vein in her neck pulsed. I had struck something deep. Francesca moved behind me, her presence like a wall of fire. You'll never touch her, she said. You'll never touch me again. That's what you think, Vera hissed. But I know what's buried in you. I put it there, and I'll bring it out if I have to. Try, Francesca said, voice low and deadly. And I'll show you the alpha queen you tried to kill. And just like that, the line was drawn. No more diplomacy. No more past. Francesca took my hand, laced our fingers together, and pulled me to her side. Her voice rang like steel. You come near my mate again. I will burn this forest to the ground with your bones in it. Vera didn't smile this time. She just stepped back, her eyes cold, her face unreadable. Then I suppose we'll see each other again very soon. And she vanished into the trees. The ground beneath the house felt different. It wasn't the cold or the shifting wind outside that made my skin prickle. It was something deeper. Something waking up. The morning after the confrontation with Vera, Francesca barely spoke. She walked the house like a storm restrained by skin, her silver eyes shadowed, her movements sharp and deliberate. Lyra watched her like one watches a sleeping beast, respectful, alert, ready. I stood in the kitchen, trying to drink tea I couldn't taste, feeling the mark Vera had left on the air. My scent still burned through the house, tangled with Francesca's. That had been deliberate. When she took my hand at the ravine, when she claimed me in front of the woman who once owned her body like a trophy, she didn't just declare war. She declared love. But now the world was changing, and something inside me was changing with it. It began with the dreams. I saw fire. Not destruction, but ritual, circles of flame, figures cloaked in shadow, howls carried by the wind like ancient songs. I saw a crown, not metal, but made of bone and moonlight, resting on water that shimmered with blood. And always I heard her voice, not Francesca's. Another woman, older, stronger, whispering my name like it wasn't mine, but something I'd forgotten. I woke breathless, drenched in sweat, the sheets tangled around my legs. Francesca sat at the edge of the bed, already dressed in black, her blades strapped across her back. You screamed, she said softly, in your sleep. I dreamed, I whispered, of someone who knew me, someone ancient. Her eyes sharpened. Describe her. I did, as best I could. The shape of her face, the shimmer of her eyes, the way her voice didn't sound human at all. Francesca went still. That's not a dream, she said. That's memory. Memory of what? I asked. You're not just an Omega, she said, standing. I felt it when I first scented you. I ignored it because I wanted to believe you were untouched by this world. But you're not. You were born for it. That's ridiculous, I said, shaking my head. I was raised by humans. My parents aren't your blood, Francesca interrupted. Not entirely. I stared at her, heart thudding. What are you saying? You're descended from the lost line of the Moonbound, the bloodline that ruled before me, before any of us. Your scent carries their mark, their power. That's impossible. No, Lyra said, stepping into the room. It's not. I smelled it too. Faint. Recessive. But now it's waking. Why now? I asked. Francesca looked at me with something raw in her eyes. Because the bond between us is triggering it. Because the moonbound only awaken when the old blood calls them forward. And I'm the last of that blood that walks freely. What does that mean? I demanded, standing. It means you're more than my mate, Francesca said. You're the only one who can challenge Vera's claim to rule. You're not just the queen's lover. You're heir to the first throne. The room tilted. My skin burned. I stumbled back, and Francesca caught me before I fell. Her hands gripped my arms tightly, anchoring me. I didn't want this for you, she said. I wanted to protect you from all of it. But we don't get to choose our blood. I'm not ready for this, I whispered. You don't have to be, she said. You just have to stand with me. Always, I said. Even if I'm no one. You're everything, she replied. That afternoon, Francesca called a meeting. Allies began arriving. Not soldiers, not yet, but leaders of smaller packs who still held loyalty to her name. Some I recognized from old photos. Others were new, their eyes wide when they saw me standing beside her, my hand in hers. Whispers followed us. Not about scandal, about prophecy. She smells of moonbound, one elder said. The old blood returns. I thought the line was broken, another murmured. I thought the queen was the last. She was, Lyra said, arms crossed. Until now. Francesca stood tall, her voice steady. Vera wants to rule with fear. She wants to bring back forced bonds, arrange bloodlines, and break every Omega who dares to resist. But we won't let her. We won't. And who is this? One of the younger alphas asked, gesturing to me. This is Ella, Francesca said, lifting my hand. My mate, my equal, and the true heir of the moonbound. Silence fell, and then one by one they knelt, not to Francesca.
To me.
I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Francesca's fingers tightened around mine. This doesn't change who you are, she whispered. It just gives you power to protect it. That night, I stood outside under the moonlight, staring at the sky that now felt like it was watching me. Francesca stepped behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist. Her lips brushed my ear. Do you feel it now? Yes, I whispered. Like the stars are whispering secrets I forgot how to hear. Then listen, she murmured, because your blood remembers what even the stories forgot. I turned in her arms, kissed her slow and deep, not as a woman uncertain of her place, but as one stepping into her legacy. Whatever happens, I said, we face it together. Francesca nodded. Together. But far in the distance, a single howl echoed across the hills, long, low, and full of warning. And I knew. Vera felt the shift. She felt me. The true war was about to begin. The sky split open just after midnight. There was no warning. No scouts returning breathless, no perimeter alarms, no whispered signs of movement in the forest. Just silence. Then fire. I woke to the sound of shattering glass and the smell of burning wood. My body reacted before my mind caught up. I rolled off the bed, landing hard as an explosion rocked the back of the house. Shouts echoed down the hallway. Lyra's voice. Someone screamed. I stumbled toward the door, throwing it open just as Francesca came barreling down the hall. Blood streaked across her cheek, her blade already slick with crimson. Her eyes met mine, silver, wild, locked in that place between human and beast. Stay with me, she ordered, grabbing my wrist. Don't let go. I didn't. I couldn't.
We ran.
Through the smoke, through the flickering orange light, through the ruins of the home we'd built together. Bodies moved in the shadows, some ours, some theirs. Vera hadn't sent soldiers this time. She'd sent assassins.
Precise.
Silent. Intent on cutting the head off the resistance in a single blow. But she hadn't counted on one thing. Francesca wasn't running anymore. We reached the main hall just as 3 enemy wolves broke through the windows. Francesca didn't hesitate. She launched herself forward, her body a blur of claws and teeth and instinct. I'd seen her fight before, but not like this. This wasn't control. This wasn't strategy. This was rage. She ripped through them like paper, bones cracking under her fists, her growls shaking the air itself. Lyra appeared moments later, dragging one of the intruders by the hair and throwing him at Francesca's feet. "They're not just trying to kill us," she said, panting. "They're trying to mark the territory." "Where's Vera?" Francesca snarled. "Not here," Lyra spat. "Coward sent her hounds and stayed behind." Of course she did. Then her eyes flicked to me, and I saw it.
The shift.
Her control was breaking. "Francesca," I whispered, stepping closer. "You need to breathe." "I can't," she said, voice strained. "Ella, I can't." Another explosion. The eastern wall crumbled. Fire licked the sky. The ground shuddered. And then she broke. I felt it like a rupture in the world itself. Francesca fell to her knees, hands gripping the floor, her back arching violently as the shift tore through her. Not the half-form I'd seen before. Not the restrained fury. This was total. Bones cracked. Skin split. The sound was unbearable. Her scream shattered the air. And then the wolf rose. Massive. Black as the void. Eyes glowing silver. Brighter than any moon. She stood twice the size of any other shifter I'd seen, her fur rippling with power, her claws sinking into the stone like it was soft earth. The room went silent. Even the enemies stopped. Everyone stared. Some dropped to their knees in pure, involuntary submission. The Alpha Queen had returned. And she was magnificent. She let out a roar, a deep, ancient sound that vibrated through my bones, and launched herself into the nearest group of enemies. What followed was chaos. Beautiful, brutal chaos. She moved like a storm made flesh, tearing through Vera's wolves with such fury they barely had time to scream. And I, Ella, the Omega, the girl with dreams too soft for war, stood at the center of it all, watching the woman I loved become something untouchable and terrifying. But even as her body shifted, even as the scent of blood overtook the air, I felt it. Our bond. Still there. Still pulsing between us like a tether. She was still mine. Until she wasn't. Because when the last enemy fell, when the fire had begun to die and the ashes settled over the floor like snow, Francesca didn't shift back. She stood in the center of the room, massive and silent, her breathing ragged, her eyes still glowing. And she didn't move. "Francesca?" I called out, stepping forward. "It's over. You can come back." She didn't react. Lyra approached cautiously. "Something's wrong." "No," I said. "She's still in there." "Not if the shift took too much," Lyra warned. This is what she feared. That the queen would return, but the woman wouldn't. "She's still my Francesca," I said. And I walked to her, step by step. Everyone else stayed behind. I didn't blame them, but I couldn't leave her there, trapped, lost inside a form she never wanted to wear again. "Francesca," I whispered, my hand trembling as I reached toward her snout. "It's me." Her breath hitched. Just a little. But I saw it. She heard me. I pressed my palm to her fur, hot and trembling with tension. "You came back for me," I said. "Now let me bring you home." Her massive head turned. Her silver eyes locked onto mine. And I poured everything I had into the bond between us. Every memory, every kiss, every soft moment we'd shared. Her fingers on my jaw. Her voice in the dark. Her lips on mine, whispering mine, mine, mine like a chant she needed to survive. "You're not a monster," I said. "You're not a weapon. You're Francesca. And I love you." A sound broke from her throat, low and shuddering. She collapsed to her side, body twitching. I knelt beside her, never letting go. The shift back was slower. Painful. Her bones reset one by one, her breath coming in gasps. And when it was over, she was lying in my lap, naked, trembling, her body covered in sweat and blood. But she was back. She was herself. I cradled her face, tears spilling over my cheeks. She looked up at me with glassy eyes, voice barely a whisper. "You brought me back." "Always," I said. "Always." We stayed there until the sun began to rise, until the house stopped burning and the air turned cold again. Around us, the others began to move, rebuilding, recovering. But I didn't care about any of it, because I had her, broken, bleeding, exhausted, but herself. Francesca clutched my hand and didn't let go. She did this to force the shift, she whispered. She wanted me to lose myself. But you didn't, I said. You found yourself. And in her eyes, I saw something I hadn't seen before. Not fear, not pain, hope. And the beginning of the end. The house was silent, too silent. Not the silence of safety, but of aftermath, of breath held in the space between one heartbeat and the next, waiting to see what would rise from the ashes. Francesca was still unconscious. Her body lay curled beneath thick blankets in our room, her skin cold, her pulse slow. The shift had taken everything from her. I sat at her side, holding her hand in both of mine, pressing it against my cheek like a prayer I didn't know how to finish. Outside the room, voices murmured, decisions were made, defenses rebuilt. But no one crossed the threshold. No one dared. Lyra guarded the hallway like a sentinel carved from bone and loyalty, her face unreadable, her clothes still torn from the fight. It had been a day since the attack. 24 hours of chaos and blood and rebuilding. 24 hours, Samela. And now it was my turn. I stood up slowly, brushing a kiss to Francesca's temple before walking into the corridor, past Lyra, into the war room. Every eye turned to me the moment I entered. Some filled with hope, others with doubt. We lost 4 in the fire, said one of the scouts. 8 injured. And Vera? I asked. Gone, Lyra said. She never stepped foot on the battlefield. Because she got what she wanted, I murmured. She wanted Francesca to lose control. She wanted her vulnerable. And now, someone asked, the queen sleeps. The pack waits. My hands curled into fists. My voice stayed calm. Then they wait for me. Silence. Not resistance. Not disbelief. Just stillness, like the air itself was leaning forward to listen. She gave everything to protect this pack, I said. Now I will do the same. You don't have her strength, someone muttered. I turned toward the voice. No, I agreed. But I have her heart. And I have mine. And that will be enough. The room bowed. They didn't kneel, not this time, but they bowed their heads. In that gesture, I felt it. Acceptance. Not just of me as Francesca's mate, but as something more. A leader. A moonbound. Later that night, I stepped outside for air. The stars above burned low and distant, the moon a perfect sickle of white in the sky. And I felt it, beneath the soil, inside the trees, humming in my blood. The moon remembers. I turned toward the forest, walked barefoot through the frost. The wind whispered through the branches in a language I almost understood. And when I reached the clearing, the same clearing where I had first seen Francesca beginning to shift, I dropped to my knees. Who am I? I whispered to the dark. The answer came not in words, but in memory. The same woman from my dreams stood before me. Not real, not fully. A projection. A ghost. She looked like me. Older. Wiser. And crowned in silver fire. You are the echo of the first howl, she said without speaking. The beginning and the return. Why me? I asked. Because love chose you. And the blood remembered. My body ached. My hands shook. And then I felt it, deep in my spine, my bones, my very soul. The power. Not just Francesca's bond. Not just her strength beside mine. Mine. I let go. I gave in. I closed my eyes and let the howl rise from my throat. It wasn't loud. It wasn't wild. It was ancient. And everything around me responded. The wind stopped. The trees bowed. And far away, I knew Francesca stirred. When I returned to the house, my scent was different. Richer. Deeper. Tangled with something that no longer slept. Moonbound. Lyra saw me first. Her eyes widened. What did you do? I remembered, I said. And then we heard it. The horn. One single, bone-deep sound from the eastern hills. Not an attack. A warning. Vera had moved again. But this time she hadn't come for us. She'd gone after a village. Small. Isolado. Mostly Omega. A place where moonbound descendants once hid before being hunted into silence. She's trying to erase my line, I said. She knows I carry the blood. And she wants to make sure I'm the last. Francesca hadn't woken. I couldn't wait. I turned to Lyra. Rally who you can. We leave in an hour. You're not ready, she said. Neither was Francesca, I replied. And she stood alone for years. I won't let her do it again. Lyra didn't argue. She just nodded. I returned to Francesca's bedside once more. I kissed her forehead. I'll come back to you, I whispered. Even if the world burns around us, I'll find my way home. Her hand twitched. The smallest sign. Enough. I left at dawn. The forest was quiet as we moved, 10 of us, fast and armed, cutting through the frost like blades. We reached the village by midday. Smoke rose from the edge of the trees. And what we found shattered me. The place had been gutted. Houses burned. Fences broken. But no bodies. Just signs of struggle. A trail. They didn't kill them, Lyra said. They took them. Why? I asked. For leverage? For bait. Lyra pointed to a mark burned into the ground, a crescent moon encircled by thorns. No, she said. For ritual. My stomach turned. Vera's not just trying to take power, I said. She's trying to twist it. To turn the moon-bound blood into a weapon. Then we stop her, Lyra said. Now. But as I turned toward the trees, a sharp pain lanced through my chest. I staggered. Fell to my knees. My vision blurred. My breath caught. Lyra dropped beside me, grabbing my shoulders. What's happening? And then I heard it. Francesca's voice. Not with my ears. With my soul.
Ella, please.
Come back. Don't leave me. She had woken. And she was calling me. We have to go, I gasped. Back to her. We can't. She needs me. Lyra didn't question it. We moved.
Fast. Hard.
The way back was a blur of wind and snow and burning lungs. I burst into our room just as Francesca tried to sit up, her entire body shaking, her lips pale. Ella, she croaked. I was at her side in a heartbeat. She grabbed my wrist, holding me like I might vanish. Don't go without me again. I had to, I whispered. She went after the moonbound. She's not just coming for the throne. She's coming for me. Francesca cupped my cheek. Her voice cracked. Then let me stand beside you. Not as your protector. Not as your queen. As your equal. Always, I said. And when we kissed this time, it wasn't desperation. It was truth. The world was burning. But we had each other. And the moon remembered us both. The air tasted different now, like thunder hiding behind a sky that hadn't split yet, like old gods waiting to descend. Francesca stood beside me at the edge of the high ridge, her eyes trained on the valley below where the broken clans made their home. They were the last of the unaffiliated, the forgotten, the betrayed, packs who'd sworn never to kneel again, who had buried their dead in silence and burned their banners in rebellion. And now we were asking them to rise. Not for a queen. For something older. Are you sure about this? Francesca's voice was quiet but firm, her hand finding mine, grounding me in a way nothing else ever could. They tried to kill me once. I was a child and they saw my blood as a threat. They haven't changed. I turned to her, feeling the wind pick up behind us like an omen. Then we changed them. Her eyes softened just enough for me to see the storm behind them. If they attack, I'll protect you. No, I said. You'll stand with me. Side by side. No shields. No walls. She nodded. We descended together, her in black, her blades strapped to her back, her eyes like silver fire in the fading light. Me barefoot, moonlight clinging to my skin, the hum of the old blood coiled tight in my spine like a secret ready to be spoken aloud. They began to appear between the trees. First one, then another, then a dozen tall, scarred figures with sharp eyes and colder expressions. I didn't look away. Neither did Francesca. And then a man stepped out from the center of the gathering. An elder, judging by the white in his beard and the slow strength in his movements. His golden eyes flicked between us, then landed on Francesca like a blade unsheathed. The dead queen walks. And she no longer walks alone, Francesca replied evenly. We didn't come to command. We came to show you what's coming. We've survived every war, the elder said. We will survive this one too. You might survive, I said, stepping forward. But will your children? Your future? Vera isn't coming to rule. She's coming to erase. To own. To bleed the world until nothing ancient is left but her voice. Big words for someone wearing the scent of a traitor. And bigger truths, I snapped. You think you've buried the past, but I am the past. The moonbound lives again, and I am its blood. The silence that followed was thick, suspicious. But I didn't flinch. I stepped forward. I dropped to one knee, not to beg, but to let it rise. The power, the scent, the memory. I let the blood in me awaken fully. The ancient pull of the first wolves, the howl that had no beginning. The earth trembled. The trees bowed. The broken clans dropped to their knees, not from loyalty, but from instinct. Their wolves recognized what their minds had forgotten. Moonbound. The elder's jaw tightened. Magic, he muttered. Blood, I corrected. I didn't ask for it. I am it. Francesca came to my side then, her voice cutting through the stunned silence like a blade. She is not a symbol. She's not a tool. She is mine. And I will kneel beside her, or die before I see another woman forced to kneel alone. The elder stared at us both. I saw it in his eyes, the recognition, the doubt, the war. And finally, he bent his head. Then maybe the world does need two queens. And maybe this time, it will survive them. That night, the broken clans sang. Not songs of violence, but of memory. Drums echoed through the forest, old rhythms that hadn't been heard in generations. They built fires, cooked food, shared water and weapons. And as I moved through them, I felt something settle in my chest. We weren't just gathering an army. We were awakening a people. Francesca and I stayed in a temporary shelter near the edge of the gathering. It was quiet inside, dimly lit by a single flickering lamp. She closed the door behind us, and the silence thickened with everything unsaid. Did you see me? I asked softly. Out there. I did, she whispered. And for a moment, I thought the ground might split open just to honor you. I smiled tiredly and leaned into her. Are you afraid? I've always been afraid, she said. But now I'm more afraid of losing you than of dying. You won't lose me, I said. You're my home. I'll always come back to you. She looked at me then like I was the only real thing left in the world. And maybe I was. She touched my face, reverent, careful. Then come here, she murmured. Show me what it feels like to live with you. The kiss was slow, deep, built from everything we'd survived. Her hands found my skin like they'd always known where to go, peeling away fabric with tenderness that belied the strength behind her movements. We fell onto the bed together, the weight of the world momentarily forgotten. We moved as one, not chasing pleasure, but claiming it. Her lips marked my collarbone, her hands learning every curve of me like a language she'd never been taught but somehow always known. I whispered her name against her throat as she entered me with her fingers, soft and slow and full of purpose. It wasn't fast. It wasn't frantic. It was sacred. She made love to me like she was writing a prayer into my body, one only I would ever understand. And when I came, I did so with her name on my lips and the moon in my blood. After, we lay tangled, skin to skin, breathing in sync, our fingers interlaced on my belly like a promise. They'll try to separate us, she whispered into my hair. Then let them try, I whispered back. They'll fail. But even in that warmth, even in the safety of her arms, I felt it. A tremor in the earth, a shudder in the air, something shifting in the far north. Vera had felt it. She knew the broken clans had bent the knee, and she was preparing to answer. Not with words.
With war.
It began at sunrise. The air was cold, sharper than usual, like the wind itself had drawn its blade. The trees stood still, holding their breath. The broken clans were the first to rise, assembling in silence, eyes hard and solemn, faces marked with war paint and memory. Francesca moved through them like a ghost made flesh, her black armor gleaming with the faint silver shimmer of the Alpha Queen's sigil freshly etched across her chest. She wore no crown. She didn't need one. The way they looked at her was enough. And I wore white, not by tradition, by instinct. A long, flowing coat cinched at the waist, leather laced up to my throat, sleeves etched with the crescent of the moonbound. My hair braided back with silver thread, my eyes steady, my mouth silent. I said nothing as they surrounded me. Warriors, elders, children who had seen too much. Francesca reached for me before we left, pressing her forehead to mine, her hand wrapped around the back of my neck. If she hurts you, she whispered, voice tight, I'll burn the entire forest down around her. You won't need to, I said. I'll handle her. She didn't like it. I could see the war in her eyes. The instinct to shield, to take the blow herself. But this wasn't her battle, not this one. This was mine. And she knew it. We walked together through the last stretch of forest, side by side, our armies trailing behind us. And then we saw her, Vera. She stood on the opposite ridge, her soldiers lined behind her in perfect formation, silent and monstrous in their matching black. Her eyes met mine across the field. She smiled. I didn't. Between us, in the wide circle of flattened earth surrounded by ancient stones, the ritual space waited. She's expecting you to back down, Lyra said, her voice low. She thinks you'll hesitate, that she can rattle you. She's wrong. I stepped forward. Alone. I crossed the battlefield slowly, my heartbeat steady, the blood in my veins humming with ancestral rhythm. Vera walked toward me at the same time, her movements fluid, confident, her long coat trailing behind her like a shadow that had no end. We met in the center, close enough to smell each other. Her scent was wrong, twisted alpha musk laced with something old and unnatural, something reeking of rot and cold metal. You wear her scent, Vera said, voice low and sweet like poison. I expected more. I'm not here for your expectations, I replied. I'm here for your end. She laughed. You think this is about power? It is, but not the kind you understand. Her smile slipped, just barely. You reek of legacy you don't deserve. And you reek of fear. Her eyes narrowed. Very well. Then let the crown choose. We both stepped back. The ritual began. No weapons. No armies. Just two women. Two legacies. One fate. The circle activated beneath our feet. An ancient perimeter of energy, older than any pack still living. The earth responded first, then the wind. The spirits of the moonbound howled quietly beneath the surface, waiting. The rules were simple. The fight would end when one of us could no longer stand. When one submitted. Or when one died. The first strike was hers. Quick, sharp, a punch to the ribs that sent me stumbling. I recovered fast, twisting, elbowing her jaw. She grinned through the blood. Good, she said. I was afraid you'd be soft. Not anymore. She came at me again, claws half-formed, barely holding her human shape. Her rage made her sloppy. Mine made me precise. I dodged, countered, slammed her into the stone. She recovered instantly, sweeping my legs from under me, slamming me to the ground with brute force. You think love makes you strong, she snarled. It makes you weak. Then why are you still obsessed with what you lost? That hit. She roared, shifting partially, her eyes fully golden now, her teeth sharp, her voice distorted by the beast inside. I let mine rise too, but not the wolf. The moonbound. The glow started in my chest, spread down my arms. My skin shimmered with moonlight, my eyes glowing silver white. She blinked.
Confused.
Just enough. I struck her hard, palm to sternum, channeling not brute force, but energy. She flew backward, hitting the stone hard. Her breath left her in a gasp. The field went still. She rose slowly, bleeding now, face twisted. You don't deserve that power, she growled. That was never meant to belong to an Omega. No, I said. It was meant to belong to someone who would never abuse it. She charged me. This time she didn't hold back. She shifted fully mid-sprint, massive, dark, monstrous. Her wolf form was terrifying, not majestic, corrupted. She pounced, claws slashing. I dropped low, rolled under her, slashed with the edge of my palm. She howled in rage. I stood, my body glowing, my heart steady. And then I let go. Not of myself, of them. The moonbound. I reached into the power sleeping inside me and pulled. The howl that left my throat shook the sky. The battlefield quaked. The ancient stones lit up. And Vera's body froze mid-strike. Her wolf stumbled.
Stopped.
Her limbs trembled. She tried to move.
Couldn't.
Her body bowed to mine. Her instinct submitted. And she screamed. The transformation broke mid-shift. She fell to her knees, caught in that grotesque half-form. And I stood over her, breathing hard, glowing brighter. This is your end, I said. Not because I hate you, but because you chose power over people, pain over peace. And you'll never have her again. You'll never have me. She looked up, eyes wide with the realization. You were always stronger, she rasped. You just didn't know it. Now I do. I stepped forward, raised my hand, and for a moment I considered mercy. But the moonbound did not. My final blow wasn't physical, it was ancestral. A surge of pure energy, silver and silent, pulsing from my chest to hers. It struck her like lightning. Her body convulsed. Her form unraveled. And when it ended, she collapsed.
Dead.
Still. The ritual circle vanished. Silence fell. And then Francesca ran. I barely had time to breathe before she crashed into me, arms wrapping tight around my waist, lifting me off the ground. Her face was in my neck. Her scent all around me. You're okay? She whispered over and over again. You're okay. I held her just as tightly. I told you. I always come home. Behind us, the battlefield shifted. Wolves howled, not in mourning, but in rebirth. Francesca turned to them, still holding my hand. The Queen and the Moonbound. Past and future. One war had ended, but a new reign was just beginning. The battlefield had gone quiet. Days had passed since Vera's death, but her presence still lingered like smoke in the trees, in the stone, in the wary eyes of those who had once followed her and now had nothing left to believe in. Her soldiers hadn't fought to the end. Most had surrendered the moment her body hit the ground, dropped to their knees, stunned not by her death, but by who had killed her.
Me.
Not the Queen they feared. The Omega they didn't see coming. I still heard the echo of that moment when the ritual ended. The collective silence. The disbelief. And then the howls. Not of mourning. Of acknowledgement. But victory didn't feel like I thought it would. It didn't taste sweet. It tasted like ash and old blood. I'd won. We'd won. But the cost still sat heavy in my chest. Francesca stayed close to me in the days that followed. She barely let me out of her sight. Her hands found mine in moments of silence, her voice always near, a tether holding me to the ground when I floated too far into memory. She hadn't said what came next. Neither had I. We lived in a strange kind of in-between, suspended in a world that was no longer at war, but not yet ready to be whole. On the third day, the council gathered. Not the old one, that had been dismantled, burned, and buried with the system that created it. This was new. Alphas, betas, omegas, representatives from every allied pack. All of them waiting for us, me and Francesca, to tell them what the world would be now. I stood with her at the front of the great circle, the stone amphitheater carved into the hillside centuries ago. Francesca looked powerful, calm, but her hand gripped mine beneath the long cloak she wore, fingers trembling just slightly. I wasn't afraid, but I was tired. Tired of power. Tired of blood. Tired of being looked at like I was a prophecy instead of a person. I stepped forward. The air shifted. The murmurs stopped. "You expect us to sit on a throne," I said.
To rule.
"To carry the burden of history on our backs." No one spoke. But we didn't fight to build a new version of the same cage. We fought to end it. To change it. Francesca joined me. Her voice rang like steel through the stillness. "There will be no single throne. No single crown. No alpha queen commanding your knees. From now on, leadership will be chosen by merit, by honor, not by blood."
"But the moonbound," someone began.
I turned to face the speaker. "The moonbound gave me power."
"Yes."
"But I was never meant to hoard it. I was meant to return it. And I do. To all of you. This world is not mine to rule. It's ours to protect." The silence held a heartbeat longer. And then, slowly, one by one, they bowed. Not in submission. In agreement. In unity. It was over. Really over. We didn't stay in the highlands. Francesca and I left the valley the next morning before the sun rose, walking together in silence through the frost-covered trees with nothing but a single bag each and the promise of peace behind us. No guards. No ceremonies. No banners. Just us. We returned to the neighborhood where it all began. Our houses still stood, side by side, quiet and familiar. Mine had a cracked window. Hers still smelled faintly of pine and smoke. We didn't go inside. Not yet. Instead, we walked behind the houses, through the overgrown garden, to the bench where I first watched her appear, scarred and unreadable, terrifying and beautiful. She sat first. I followed. The silence between us was warm now, heavy with memory, but no longer burdened by it. After a long while, she reached for my hand. "Do you miss it? The power?" I asked.
"No."
"Not even a little?" She smiled, soft and slow. "Me neither." I turned to look at her. "What now?" She leaned in, kissed the corner of my mouth. "Now," she whispered, "we live." And that's what we did. We planted new herbs where the old ones had withered. We repainted the porch. We adopted an old one-eyed cat who refused to be affectionate but slept in our bed anyway. We took long walks and longer baths. She stopped wearing armor. I stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. We healed.
Slowly.
Imperfectly. Together. One night, months later, under a sky full of stars so bright it looked painted, Francesca stood in the kitchen holding something small in her hand. A ring. Simple. Silver. Carved with the moonbound crescent. "I don't want a throne," she said, voice shaking slightly. "I want you, and I don't want a title. I just want to come home to you for the rest of my life." I stepped forward, heart stuttering. "You don't have to kneel," I whispered. "I know," she said, "but I want to."
And she did.
Right there on our kitchen floor, with flour on her hands and love in her eyes. I didn't cry.
Not then.
Not until after I said yes. And then I did. Because I had been an orphan. A nobody. A girl who thought she'd live quietly forever in a street where nothing ever happened. And then she moved in. And the world cracked open. And now here we were. Two women. One history rewritten. And a future wide open. We didn't need crowns. We didn't need titles. We had each other. And for once, that was enough. Thank you so much for being here and for believing in this channel. If you feel in your heart, you can donate with super thanks so I can focus more and more on this project. Your support helps me keep creating these love stories and bringing them to life for you. See you in the next video.